Look who's here! Everybody! For New York! Nicole 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 for New York!
How are you?
Great to see you. Everybody, let's give a big Queens Village Republican Club welcome! Actually, if you remember, who was here at the Lincoln dinner?
Right here.
If you remember, Nicole was given our award as a Republican Woman of the Year, and while she was receiving our award, somebody yelled out from the audience, "Run for mayor." That was Charles Vavruska right over there. And she took his advice. We honored Nicole because she is a fearless assemblywoman. She has stood up to Shelley Silver and his ethics violations from way back. Nicole Malliotakis, she's here. Let's give her our full support and give her a big Queens Village Republican round of applause.
Charlie, you gotta give me $175 for my campaign. It's all your fault. You planted the seed. Thank you, everyone. It's great to be here. I feel very. I've been out all day, running all over the city, and I was exhausted actually on the car way here, because it's been a crazy week. And I just walked in. You guys gave me such an energy boost. So thank you. I'm really excited to be here with all of you. I decided to jump into this race because I think, like many of New Yorkers, I was very upset about the direction that we're heading. We're seeing a disintegration, really, of our quality of life here in the city. I think the basic experience of New Yorkers is like this. You get in your car, you're sitting in traffic as you're on your way to work, because we have a Vision Zero plan that has crippled the city. We get on the subway. Well, actually, we don't even get on the subway. We actually walk into the station and it smells like urination, because we have a mayor that says that we're not going to enforce quality of life crimes anymore. Then you finally are waiting for the subway quite some time, because we have traffic signals on the subway that date back to pre-World War II conditions, and a mayor who refuses to invest in the capital plan to improve that and make it run better. Then you finally get on the subway, and it's extremely crowded because the trains are running very slowly because of the traffic signals, and we don't have the modernization that we should be having in our system. But then you leave the subway, and there's homeless people on the street, and we have a mayor who says he cares for the poor people, but seems perfectly okay with having fellow New Yorkers sleeping on the street, and I think that's actually a disgrace. And of course, then there's the litter issue across the city. So now, basic services is what our mayor's supposed to be doing, right? The basic management of the city, keeping the traffic flowing, the trains running, the streets clean, the streets safe, ensuring that our homeless people are taken care of and given opportunities to turn their lives around. That's not happening because he's out fighting a national ideological war instead of doing his job and being the mayor of the city of New York. So my campaign is really going to be about that, taking care of the business of the city, making sure that we're getting the services that we need. Instead, and it would be shocking to believe this, but it's true, the budget has gone up 30% in the 3.5 years he's been in office. He's spending money left and right. Money comes in, money's going out. So we saw property taxes increase double digits. We've seen water bills increase double digits. We have seen crime increase in certain aspects. So, for instance, rape, sex crimes have increased 15%. Crimes, human trafficking crimes, 50% increase just last year alone. And I think that's a direct result of a sanctuary city policy in which individuals are being brought here against, they're being promised a better life, they're being promised citizenship, and instead they're being put in these massage parlors that are fronts for prostitution. And it's very sad what's happening in the city. And so I was thinking about it today. I was actually had an interview with the Wall Street Journal. And when I was talking to them, I was saying, you know, it's interesting because a lot of and I grew up in the 80s and 90s and whatever. So I remember being a kid in Sunset Park. Not that I grew up in Sunset Park, but my parents had a small business in Sunset Park, and I grew up in Staten Island. And I spent a lot of time in Sunset Park, my summers. I used to go work with my parents when I wasn't in school. And I remember, and I think one of the reasons why I never got involved in drugs as a kid was because I saw, you know, it was prostitutes, it was drug addicts falling on the street, it was needles on the floor. Those problems in many ways have not changed. We have an epidemic crisis in our city. And we have a prostitution issue with, as I mentioned, the human trafficking aspect, but it's all behind closed doors. We don't see it as publicly as we did back then. So I think that what we need is a mayor that's going to just take care of the basic responsibilities, and that's why I'm running. I'm running because we're being neglected. As he's fighting this ideological war, we're being neglected. And as a city, the people are suffering. He doesn't get along with the president. He doesn't get along with the governor of his own party. And again, the people suffer. And so I think we need to end the nonsense in this city. I think it's an absolute disgrace, by the way, that we have a mayor and a council speaker that think it's appropriate to walk down Fifth Avenue with an individual who claims responsibility, as leader of the organization that claims responsibility, of 100 attacks on our nation, most of which occurred here in the city of New York. We had civilians die, we had police officers and detectives that were wounded. Mayor Abe Beam, at the time, said that it was outrageous acts of terrorism. And here, 40 years later, we have a mayor who thinks it's appropriate to walk down Fifth Avenue with this guy. It's unbelievable. Now, you probably saw in the news this week, I've been making a big deal about it, because first of all, I find it outrageous. I'm actually Cuban. I have family in Puerto Rico. My mother's a Cuban refugee. She fled in 1959. So she came to New York. Other family members went to Puerto Rico. And so I was looking forward to going to the Puerto Rican Day Parade. I really was. And I felt I could make a connection with a lot of the people there. But I think it's really outrageous what's happening. And the fact that, you know, we made a big deal about this issue. And we're saying that the mayor should show some leadership. And the parade committee chairperson happens to be a staff member of his. So if anyone has influence to get the honoree changed, it's him. And he's refusing to show leadership. And well, actually, you know what? Let me tell you what's happening now. I was the first individual that said I wasn't going to be marching. I was the first politician, elected official, whatever you want to call it. Since then, there's been multiple. As you know, the governor, Senator Schumer, others have said they're not going to march. Now, after this event with the son of a victim, who really, at 9 years old, lost his father because of one of the bombs at Francis Tavern, and also the prosecutor who prosecuted the FLAN, when I was with them doing this press conference afterwards, they asked the mayor, and now he's backtracking. Now he's saying, oh, I was really never going to march with Oscar Lopez Rivera, but I'm still going to march in the parade. They asked him, well, who are you going to march with? He says, I don't know. That was his answer. So now he's trying to weasel his way out. But what a leader would do, and if I was the mayor of the city, I would set a meeting with the parade committee and say, this is unacceptable. We're not going to allow this in the city, in the streets of the city of New York, especially a city that just not too long ago, and we can't be forgetful of this, and sometimes you think some of our elected officials have forgotten, not too long ago, we lost thousands of people right here in our own city because of the terrorist attack. So I believe that he's really displaying a lack of leadership. He's trying to weasel around the issue now. My primary opponent, too, is I'm not marching, but I'm attending. So, I mean, I don't know. If you don't support an event, I just assume people that don't support events don't attend, especially those events that honor terrorists. I just, you know, I mean, that would be a rational thing to do. After my press conference, now my primary opponent says, well, I'm attending, but I'm not attending the parade events. I'm going to attend the non-parade events. I don't know what that means. So, I mean, there's just like a lack of a backbone, I think, and a lack of leadership from people. And I'm not that type of person. I say it how it is. I say what I believe. I've been standing up against the status quo in Albany since I got elected. I was one of the first individuals to call for Shelley Silver to resign, taking on the MTA and governor when it comes on to tolls, fare hikes, and service cuts. And I've also sued the Port Authority as well, and I'm suing the mayor as well. So we have a lot going on. But I believe we can win this race. And I'll tell you, we can win the race because, first of all, there's a lot of disenchanted individuals out there. And as I mentioned, the people that are upset about the quality of life. the basic everyday things that they're experiencing that shouldn't be. If we had a mayor that was actually paying attention to the problems. So we have those people. And we have the Republicans, the conservatives, they should all vote for me. But I do believe that we can make a connection. I'm different than what the Republican Party has offered before. I'm the daughter of immigrants, I'm half Hispanic, I'm a woman, relatively young. We can, those are generally the base of the Democratic Party. So I believe I can make a connection with them. And the issues that I'm going to talk about, as I mentioned, I'm not looking to fight a national ideological war. I'm looking to take care of the city and address these quality of life issues, the very things that city government should be doing. Again, I want to keep the trains moving. I want to keep the traffic flowing. I want to keep our schools good. I want to keep our homeless people off the street. And I want to make sure that we keep our citizens safe. And I think that's very reasonable, certainly doable with the amount of money that he's been spending. But he doesn't look to address the problems. He's just looking to constantly spend more money, try to figure out how he could buy different pockets of votes, and never really focusing on actually addressing these issues that, yes, they're long-term. So he's not going to get credit for them. He's investing in the signal, in the capital plan for this, changing all the signals in our subways to keep them running. He may not get credit for it because he'd be out of office by then. That's not what the mayor should be doing, worrying about the next election. Where can I spend money now to make sure I get reelected? That's not what you should be focusing on. You should be looking long-term in your city and how you can improve things to keep up with population and growth, because you want to improve the economy and you anticipate there's going to be growth because you're going to be a good mayor. Excuse me. I'm like my voice, my throat, everything is going on me this week. So that's where the focus should be, and I think the issues that I bring up here today are issues everyone cares about, regardless of race, ethnicity, political party, demographics, and that's how we're going to win this election. So I thank you all really for inviting me here today. I'll be happy if people, I don't know, you taking questions?
Yes.
Okay,
Sure.
be happy to take a couple of questions, and yes, sir.
Sounds great. The Bolshevik bill is trying to take us back to the Giuliani days, obviously, and you were talking about the improvement in our day-to-day lives. And I had two questions. You answered already the one about sanctuary cities. I know you're opposed to that. The other one I want to ask you about, and this quality of life issue, is that if we live according to the Constitution of the United States, we have a great quality of life. Here in New York City, one part of the Constitution has basically been almost completely erased, and that's the Second Amendment. Now, I know I've been told that you voted for the SAFE Act. Now, where do you stand on our Second Amendment rights? I believe that our Second Amendment rights cannot be infringed in any way whatsoever.
All right, so if that's your only issue, you may not want to vote for me. I mean, that's fine.
Well, it's not my only issue.
I'm saying that's the thing. I hope you take everything into context. I'm a Second Amendment. I believe that I am pro-Second Amendment, but I believe that I'm also a reasonable person. And with the SAFE Act, I believe that the bill had many important components to it. Number one was life without parole for killing a police officer, and there were other things in there to tackle illegal guns. And so the only way as a Republican, in the Assembly or the majority or wherever you are, to get those issues that you really care about was to get it in that bill. And was it the perfect bill? No. Were there problems with the bill? Yes. Was the number of bullets arbitrary? Absolutely. That has been resolved, the number of bullets. And everything else was found to be constitutional. So, but really the reason why I voted for that bill was because of the life without parole for police officers.
But as mayor, what would you do to restore our Second Amendment rights here in New York City?
Look, I would enforce the law. I would enforce the law. And I would enforce, I'm not going to seek to make significant changes. I think we could make some changes to the SAFE Act. Absolutely. We can make it better. We've seen unintended consequences as a result. We should rectify it. But, quite frankly, the laws in the city are probably tougher than what the SAFE Act was, so it didn't really make, it doesn't, the SAFE Act really didn't impose. But, I mean, the reality is you really believe that we're gonna change gun laws here in the city of New York?
Well,
I mean, with the city council that's in place?
As mayor, you can take a position on that, and that might make a difference.
I think we should very much enforce law, look to strengthen laws when it comes to illegal guns. And I think there's probably some things we could probably tweak to not make it such a burden for people who, permit carrying, exactly, for people who are legally carrying guns. So I think it could be a little bit of both. But this is an issue I believe that really is. We can do whatever we want locally, but the national impact, every state has different laws and there's no borders. So it's not really an issue that I intend to advocate or fight one way or another, to be quite honest. It's not really my number one issue. I believe I'm somebody who supports Second Amendment, but it's not going to be my focus. It's just not.
Oh,
Okay? Charles.
Could you reflect on the Giuliani administration and what he did, like with the broken windows policing and bringing that? Would you endorse like Giuliani's policies and as mayor, would you build on these successes?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very important. And that's one of the things when you're seeing the deterioration of quality of life, when you're seeing an issue with public urination and littering seem to be acceptable. You know, and I mentioned this also today when I was talking to various people. In Manhattan, you don't necessarily see the litter. When you come to the outer boroughs, you see the litter, and it's all over the place. It's in all the four outer boroughs, and in Manhattan, some places, yes. But for the most part, it's in outer borough. It's a neglect, I believe, of the outer boroughs, and it comes to this: we're not enforcing the law. We're looking to decriminalize certain things, and I think that it's very important because when we don't set the tone when it comes to these broken window policies and policing, then it adds and attracts other types of bad activities. So that's my position, and I agree with you, yes.
With cameras all over the place, even under your bed, I mean, if you get until they go to the bathroom at night, you're charged for it. What are you going to do about that? 20 miles per hour.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
The cameras all over the place.
Cameras all over, yeah. Well,
under your bed, everywhere.
look, I voted against those camera programs because the city can't be trusted to just do what's right. So I would be okay with the cameras placed in strategic locations. Now, what happened with the city, there's the speed cameras, the red light cameras, and also the bus lane cameras. In my district, we've had to have multiple bus lane cameras. We have a couple of speed cameras removed, and also bus lane camera removed because they were in violation of the law, or they were placed in areas where it were traps. So, for instance, a bus lane camera. The next block, you need to make a right, or else you get the ticket. The next block was a one-way going this way. You can't make a right turn on that street. It was a trap. It was a very unfair trap. Then, on the expressway, 55 miles an hour, let's say you're on the expressway, you come off, very short distance, they want you to be 25 miles per hour, or you get a speeding ticket. My 75-year-old mother drives like an old lady, which she is. She got a ticket coming off of the expressway. And believe me, she doesn't drive fast at all. So it's just the way that they've been implementing this program, it's become obvious to people that it's a cash grab. Now, I believe, again, strategic locations. I know in Queens, they call it Boulevard of Death, which is terrible. Maybe that's a location we want to do. Maybe that's a location, but we should also be putting police out there. Because, listen, we have a heroin epidemic, okay, in this city. People are driving under the influence of heroin. People are driving drunk. A camera can't get a drunk person or somebody driving over the influence off the streets. Only a police officer can. So I believe that it's got to be a multifaceted approach. And the other thing is, if this is about school safety and my students, then why can I get stop signs at the 2 streets closest to my district, closest to my home in my district? Okay? If it's about student safety, then let's get always stop signs put on the corners of these streets, get some flashing lights, get some speed bumps where appropriate. Let's put more police in problematic areas. And yes, we could utilize some cameras, but not to make this a revenue-generating scam. That's what he's doing. And so I think the other thing, let me tell you what also made this so obvious that it was a cash grab. They lowered the speed limit from 35 to 25 miles per hour, and then they put the cameras up. So everyone that's been conditioned driving 35 miles per hour on these streets for so long are now getting hit with tickets. So it's hitting the middle class, the average hardworking person. That's what I don't understand about this mayor. He doesn't want to punish criminals. He wants to decriminalize all these laws, right? And then he wants to punish the punitive hardworking person that's just trying to drive to work in the morning. That's the irony of Mayor de Blasio.
I got 2 questions. Well, one's a question, one's a statement. One, as far as this, you're talking about the tickets and everything. When I was younger, I got tickets on a moped. I had a car with a blown engine, and I had a license. I was 18, and I got tickets on a moped, get that insured and registered. And I see all these people making deliveries on these vehicles, going the wrong side of the road, on the sidewalks, electrified mopeds to me. And I think they should be getting violations, and who knows how many people are not even legal driving these things as far as citizenship. But that's one thing you take that into consideration. The other day I heard you on Joe Piscopo's show, and they asked you, he asked you about the parade and everything. I think it was Tuesday. He mentioned the mayor and the governor, and you said something about the governor, you know, backed out of it, and the mayor's sitting on the fence, and Schumer is, he's got scheduling conflicts.
Yeah, that's a profile in courage, by the way.
So you kind of like, you were like, Joe, you were like, yeah, the governor back, you know, glad he came around and everything. My statement is, you're in front of friends here. I think, like on the national stage, this is going to be war. And to me, it sounds nice and political to be like, and maybe I'm not political savvy and everything, but the governor took 2 weeks to test the air which way it was blowing. To me, if I was on the radio, I personally would have said it, because we got to win and we got to fight, and we cannot take a passive approach. That means you cannot take a passive approach.
Well, look, I'm not running against the governor. I'm running against the mayor, number one. Number two, the governor still came out earlier against the parade than my primary opponent did.
Right, but it took 2 weeks. But when I hear it, listen.
But you're right. You're right.
As a grassroots person, or just a citizen, when I hear that you said, well, I'm glad he came around.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm glad he came around too. But for 2 weeks, I sat in my head, what's taking so long? What's taking so long? He's probably, and then all of a sudden, so I think you got to go for the jugular,
Well,
because they're going to go for your jugular. That's what I'm saying.
Well, we'll see. We'll see whose jugular the governor will go for.
I'm not saying the governor.
I'm not sure. I don't know who you would prefer to work with. Maybe me or the mayor. I don't know which one, to be honest, because they don't have a great relationship. And let me say this: the governor and I have had our disagreements. Believe me. And I've been critical when I need to be critical, especially when it comes to the tolls, fares, bus service, some of his economic development programs. But what I'll say is, when my constituents really needed help after Hurricane Sandy, we worked together well to do what we had to do to help thousands of people in my district that needed assistance. That shows my ability to work across the aisle with him. This mayor it's his own party, he can't even work with the governor. So I think, I'm not running against the governor.
No.
There's things I don't like about what he does. I am critical when I need to be.
I was using this as an example.
But
more of that.
But my beef is with the mayor.
Yeah,
I don't like what he's doing, and he should be the leader, because he's the mayor of the city, and he should be telling this parade committee, whose chairperson works for him, that this is unacceptable and that they need to change the honor rate.
I think why he's persistent with this question is that you appear to be dismissive, because you were also dismissive of the first question
Right.
that was asked. They're going to be carrying petitions for you, so you need to elevate their courage and their enthusiasm to do that.
Good.
I don't think you're dismissive at all, but that's another
Well,
question.
answer the question.
Yeah,
Answer the
so I've got 2 questions for you. One, how's your fundraising going? And the other is, what are you doing to connect with young people, like the young Republicans or the kids on college campuses, which are really like they're all Democrats? And it would be nice if you can get them behind you. I think you're like a dream candidate for Republican for mayor, so I'd like to see you succeed.
Well, thank you. And thank you for your suggestion. I'm not trying to be dismissive. I'm just saying that, my beef is not so much with the governor.
I didn't mean fighting with the governor. I just meant the
I
fight in
understand.
general.
I
Fight
understand.
in general.
I understand. I've got to pick out battles, though. I thank you for this question. Obviously, fundraising is an issue. I need to qualify for the matching funds program. We're doing very well with fundraising. I have quite a few fundraisers lined up. Actually, I have one at Terrace in the Park coming up, and maybe even one in, I think we're going to have one in Douglastown as well, Douglaston. And I know many of the members did already contribute to my campaign, because Phil did such a good job, and Joe as well, of collecting the checks for me. If anyone wants to contribute, it's Nicole for Mayor 2017.com. It's important, because I need to qualify for the matching funds to be competitive with the mayor. He's already been maxing out on those funds. And I need to raise $250,000 threshold that has to be made up of contributions of $175 or less. So he's already has $6 million, and I need to play catch up now. So if anyone wants to contribute to NicoleMayor2017.com, that would be much appreciated, or if they want to give a check for my campaign to Phil, very much appreciated to help. I need to get about 1,500 or to 2,000 donations from New York City residents. And your second question about the young people.
Yes.
Well, look, I think that we have an opportunity to engage young people. I got involved in politics when I was in high school, and I started to volunteer, and there are young people that are coming to me already saying they want to volunteer. So we are getting, I think we're going to have a lot of energy and excitement in this campaign. We're going to bring people from all over, of all different races, religions, regions, ages, and I think that's going to be important to energize the party, to energize the campaign, get people excited about getting involved. I think my message to young people is that it's our, I wouldn't say our generation, I'm now towards the end of this, but it's their generation that inherits this debt, right? It's their generation that's going to inherit the results of whatever government does today. And what this mayor is doing is he's not being responsible. He's being, in fact, very unsustainable with the budget. He's increased the spending by 30%. He's increased spending by 20% just in 3.5 years. And whatever money's coming in is going out. He's spending it. He is not putting money in reserves for a rainy day. If there's an emergency situation in the city, economic crisis, or God forbid another terrorist attack, he's not putting money in the reserves. In fact, what he's doing is taking money from the pension and health care for retirees fund, and he's bringing it and putting it in the rainy day fund. So that has a tremendous liability. He's taking money from that pot. Instead of whatever money's coming in, properly controlling spending and then putting some money in rainy day reserves, and then also trying to pay off some of our long-term debt, and of course invest in infrastructure, as I mentioned, with the capital plan for the MTA. So he's just spending money very unwisely and liberally, exactly. And as a result, it's the young people that are going to they're the ones that are going to get hurt. Yeah.
Question?
Well, we have one for the press here. Go.
Queens by the minute. I'm in a Republican club right now and enjoying the venue and everything, but I haven't heard the word sanctuary city. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, well, I think most people that follow me know my position. I have been very vocal against the mayor's policy. The city has had a policy going back to Ed Koch, to Bloomberg, which no one had a problem with, and no one ever complained about. It was never controversial. It was a policy that said, if somebody's here undocumented, they come forward to a city agency. For example, they want to report a crime. NYPD is not going to, ask the immigration staff, is not going to give them a hard time. That's never been an issue. Now this mayor comes along, and he's expanding this policy to be very much extreme in saying that individuals who commit crimes, we're going to protect them from deportation. So, and he's specifically, and I'll list the crimes for you, there's about 447 of them, and some aren't egregious. I mean, it's not, fortune telling, for example, is a crime in the city of New York. Who would know that? I don't know why it is. But there are some serious crimes on this list that the mayor is turning a blind eye to, including sexual abuse, forcible touching, patronizing a child for prostitution, identity theft, welfare fraud, all crimes, grand larceny, drunk driving. These are crimes that the mayor claims are not serious. And I think it's completely outrageous. I think most people, when explained exactly what his sanctuary policy does and who it actually protects, and we're talking about actual people that are committing crimes against other immigrants and citizens, I would guess the majority of New Yorkers would be opposed to it. During this campaign, the mayor has conveniently, when asked about this, because now he's being sued about this issue, he's conveniently now saying, oh, if I'm reelected, I'm going to address the inequities in the property tax system. I mean, it's like unbelievable. Where were you for the last 3.5 years? So this is something that is personal to my community, and I think Staten Island is actually probably one of the hardest hit. Queens I know is as well, but Staten Island is very hard hit on this issue. And we have, I think, some of the higher property taxes in the city, despite not having the significant value that Brooklyn and other places have.
One more question.
Yeah.
Is it me?
Oh, I'll take both of yours, Howard, 'cause I feel bad now.
I'm from Southern Queens, Howard Beach, okay? Transportation is horrendous, okay? We're treated like stepchildren, particularly when there are Democratic administrations. And I've always felt the reason for that is because Howard Beach and the surrounding area, Broad Channel, Ozone Park, the Rockaways can go Republican, okay? They are generally Republican. There's an unused rail line running from Regal Park to Ozone Park. It's been out of service for 55 years next week. It would greatly alleviate the traffic situation in Southern Queens. I don't know how much you know about it, but would you favor reactivating it?
Well, yeah, I mean, we could look at it. I'm not familiar with the details, if it's operational, what would be the cost associated with it. It would probably have to be something that we would have to have a discussion. I'm assuming it would be MTA-owned property, right?
It's owned by the MTA. It's been out of service, ironically, 55 years next week.
Yeah, so I mean, it's difficult if it's not operational. We have to see what kind of improvements we need. I mean, I think certainly we should be looking for any type of opportunity to expand transportation options in the outer boroughs. I think that's one of the, and I'm sympathetic to you. I mean, I represent Staten Island, and Bay Ridge even as well. We have a very long commute on the R train, constantly have delays and problems. And then in Staten Island, we have one rail system for the whole island. And so we don't have the type of infrastructure that we need to get around it either. So I'm very sympathetic to your cause, and I think that definitely trying to add more transportation options for the outer boroughs, especially those parts of those outer boroughs that are out there, that we need to address that. And I would look into it and see how old it is and if it's still functional, if it's even an option.
My point is, 2nd Avenue subway, tramway in Long Island
So
City.
look how many decades it took them.
Some parts of the city.
And it's still not working.
Some parts of the city get first-class treatment.
Yeah.
And the mayor responds to them. We're treated like stepchildren in Howard Beach and the surrounding area, okay? My point to you is, if you were to, you can win pretty easily in that area, okay? Because it is generally, but not always, Republican, okay? If you were to focus on transportation in that part of the city, okay? I think it would help your campaign.
Thank you. Leave it at that. Wait, he has the flag in the back.
one more.
All right, first off, so I represent ITV Gold, which is the first and the longest running South Asian and Indo-Caribbean channel. We would be here in North America. We would be more than honored to carry your message to the Indo-Caribbeans and the South Asian, viewers, those who you will represent, if elected mayor. But one of the things actually that I would, the South Asian and the Indo-Caribbean people, those from Guyana, those from Trinidad, Suriname, and India, they have the issues actually separate from some that we have discussed, such as, deportation, wrongfully being deported, and other things like that. What is your message, or how would you basically rally their support? Because most of the time they feel that they should vote Democratic until the very end. So how would you rally their support?
Well, I mean, do they want to be safe? Do they want to have a subway system that runs? Do they want to have a traffic that's flowing in the city? Do they want to have good education for their system? I think those are questions they need to ask. And in terms of immigration, my policy has always been the same. I mean, we need to, and I've written op-eds on this. You can look it up. In 2015, I've written one, and I think last year I wrote one as well. The bottom line is Washington needs to do its job. For 30 years, they have been, they've been talking about how the system is broken. The laws aren't being enforced, and it's not being streamlined for people who do want to come here. They have to wait decades. They need to pay thousands of dollars in fines, and legal fees in order to try to even attain a green card. And so I think the bottom line is that as mayor, I would be advocating, as I've done even now in my roles in the assembly, in advocating to get Washington to fix and modernize, really, it's modernization of the immigration system. So people like my parents who came here and wanted to achieve the American dream, wanted to provide a better life for themselves and me, can do that, right? That's the key. So but the city and the state shouldn't be coming up with its own laws and defying federal law either. So there's got to be a balance here. And I think that my policy has been very straightforward. For those individuals, we should be looking to streamline the process. We should be looking to, it's a shame that we even have students that come here to study and then their visas expire, they have to go home. They start businesses back home. There's a major internet company that's the equivalent of Google in China. He studied at SUNY University. he went home because his visa expired. He started a multi-billion-dollar corporation over there and thousands of jobs. So I think it's things like that that need to be brought to the forefront. Unfortunately, in Washington, Republicans are afraid to do anything because they're afraid of being primaried from the right. The Democrats are afraid to do anything because they're afraid of being primaried from the left. And then for 30 years, this has been an ongoing discussion. No one wants to talk about it. So I think that that's what I would be doing and advocating.
One more question.
Corner. Leave the flag. Yes.
Thank you so much for running. We are so proud that you ran. The comments that you're making say, hey, we speak about it, we should say it every morning, stressed out. It sounds like we're bugs, like you're the fly on the wall. You heard us, whether it's traffic, homelessness, these are big concerns for us. I'm in the city, and the little girls coming out, and the two of us panic over the homeless person. I'm walking with a 90-pound dog, based on the cleanup, and I'm almost accosted by fishermen who are clearly homeless and just fishing. So, we just want to thank you for running. We're going to support you 100%. You have a lot of, I'm of Greek descent, she's from Italian descent. You have a lot of people behind us.
Thank you.
So we thank you for the best. We want you
I
to
appreciate it very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Last question.
All right, last question, and that's it.
What's the last question?
Right here, right here.
You, go ahead, go ahead.
What's the question?
First of all, I'm glad to see that you're running from Staten Island. I'm a third-generation New Yorker, a 15th-generation American. And one of the huge issues in our community, and as a Catholic, I'm also a Catholic too, is the issue of abortion. Where are you on defending defunding Planned Parenthood? Because in New York City alone, there are more abortions, more black children are being killed than being born. And so, you know, it's an issue. You can win, but you need to recognize that there are 2 million Catholics in New York City. And Donald Trump won the election because he got the Catholic vote. And being pro-life matters.
Well, I'm personally pro-life, but I'm not looking to impose my views on people. Federal government deals with the funding of Planned Parenthood. I also believe that in the Assembly, though, I did vote against the abortion expansion bill, which is a third trimester. Expand abortion to the third trimester, and a majority of New Yorkers, including of all parties, I think it's about 65%, opposed to that bill. So I vote against that, and they brought it up multiple times. It's not. They argue it's a codification of Roe v. Wade, which is not.
Thank you very much, Dr.
Queens Village Republican Club red shirt. And it's free, but there's one caveat that you have to wear it.
Thank you, Phil.
And also, we have these flowers.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicole.
Thank you.